present to you today the founder of the League, Miss Sylvia Stankhurst, singing for us a song which offers sage advice to the worried citizen. Sylvia's mother, the celebrated Emmeline Stankhurst, will accompany on the pianoforte.
Folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Mecky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mecky, which is me, live from the Revolution Studios in Sydney Down Under. You know, you can join us now in the chat room at freedomslips.com and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for archives, show notes, and links we paste into the chat during each show. It is interactive. You can listen to us on FM WZZR 101.3 in Kentucky, or via one of these apps on your smart device. There's Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, RadioTuner, Speaker.com, iHeartRadio 2, as well, of course, Grace Tabletop, Real Radio FM, and Live 365. I think we're there now. And they're all revolutions in radio. Now, the number to call in if you're in the US of A is 347-688-2902. The number again is 347-688-2902. Or, if you live in the 21st century, via Skype, you can just add Freedom Screen. Freedom Screen, one word. Now, thank you, Solaris, for another great show. Always, of course, and thank you very much for coming on last time. Dave, this is show number 101.
You know what? It sure is. And I don't know about you, but I question whether I do live in the 21st century or some other arbitrary date someone made up at some point in time.
Fair point. Fair point.
By the way, nice read. I like that. Very nice. Mecky, it's for the US listeners, I have to say, we still feel for you in that freezing cold temperature. I'm a big fan of YouTube, and I think that's where the real news comes out of these days, rather than the mainstream. And what I was able to see this week was an extraordinary amount of people trying to burn snow with lighters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did see that as well. Interesting videos.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work though, did it?
No. People were saying, it doesn't melt, and it kept going, right? Why is it going black? It shouldn't be going black. What's burning? What's that terrible smell?
Yes, snow is not carbon. It's water.
Yeah. So there's, a lot of people getting lots and lots of views. I think about getting an ice cube out of my freezer, and let's earn 1 million views right now, Mecky, you and me, yeah?
Done.
1 million views, burning ice cubes. I feel sorry for the people who start this and then it goes viral. I joined into the comments at the bottom of a lot of clips because everyone's just straight away saying, you know what, that's rubbish. Do you want to post it? Do you want to tell people? Do you want to stand up so tall? That tall poppy thing, and give that as your opinion? A lot of people are. And I wanted to engage some of those and also do a plug for the show, saying, you know what, I don't think it's real. I think it's ice. I really do. I don't think it's manufactured ice. I don't think it's fake. Whatever it is, I bet it really is. And then this guy, I found a clip, and this guy is just throwing snow into a saucepan, and guess what? It just melted straight away, you know. I don't know if he is geographically separated from those people doing it with what looked like plastic snow. You don't know how those people had prepared the plastic snow before burning it on camera.
Yep, fair enough.
So my suggestion was you needed to have a couple of samples from different varying places. This is how my scientific method. Weigh it before and after. Do it in a sealed container. Yeah. Slowly bring it up, monitor the temperature the whole time, and supply your findings to everyone. Then, after not being satisfied with that, you want a mass spectrometer, throw it through one of those and see if it contains anything else other than water. And you should have seen, I was getting shot down. I was getting shot down by the debunkers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, saying, oh, it's just rubbish, just forget it. Well, you know, is it really? At the moment, I'm watching a video that says something. And these are the things we really do need to do to examine it. Because I don't want to be the armchair debunker. I want to be the guy who looks at it scientifically, makes a determination based on the results, and a hypothesis as to why it should be so. That's what I want, right? But it was
I think that's fair.
Extraordinary. That's all I can say. Wow. but that's for the American viewers, yeah, watching and listening. But I wanted to say something, Mecky, about our government. The people who were voted in by certainly not me. Did you hear?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Are you disappointed with their behaviour? I don't mind which way you vote, right? But still, come on. The things that they've done so far. Now, when was it? November, wasn't it? Was it November?
Yeah.
Or October?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, okay.
I think November, yeah. But anyways, yeah.
Okay, so I wrote this down. I'm just going to read the thing that I posted into Facebook because they've just done a whole raft of things this last week, and it's been quite disappointing to see. So I've summoned up all of the things that they've done so far that I could remember offhand, and I put it into one phrase. Well, it's a lot of full stops and lots of commas, right? Too many commas for my liking, but that's my grammar. I went to my own school. I said, we should count each thing they did, talking about the government, which wasn't part of their election promise. Stop the NBN. That wasn't part of it. Allow dredge slurry to be dumped on the Great Barrier Reef. That wasn't part of their promise either, was it?
Maybe we should explain to people what that means.
Yeah, go ahead, Mecky.
So we have this beautiful natural wonder, which is called the Great Barrier Reef. It's the single largest living creature on the planet, and you can see it from space. That's right, you can see it from space. Just like the Chinese wall, except this thing is alive. So now, our government in its wisdom has decided that, you know what, we've got a whole bunch of garbage. Yes, like toxic stuff and sludge and whatnot. Let's just dump it there. In one of the world's most amazing places, a natural preserve, as it were. And yeah, I think it's like something, was it 3 million tons or some there's millions of tons of something, right?
Well, don't forget that that's what the dredge slurry contains. But it also contains, I just reading today, the CSIRO were looking at it, and they said that the zero weed killer is killing the reef as well.
Yep.
And that's just runoff from the people's driveways. But the reason for the dredging was to put the world's most enormous coal shipping port. And you can't put coal ships through really shallow, coral reef. That's bad. They tend to bottom out and scrape and a whole bunch of stuff. So, let's dredge a path just for this brand new coal shipping port, which hasn't been built. And what are we going to do with all the slurry? All the dredge? Just dump it. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
So what if it's World Heritage listed? So what if it has the most unique flora on the planet, and that it's seen from space, and that people come from all around the planet to have a look at it? All right, and it's the last of its kind. Yeah, it's it's being killed by those huge crown of thorns starfish. Sure, climate change is going to wipe it out. If the sea goes another metre higher, it won't be able to sustain itself. But we don't have to wait till then, because climate change doesn't exist. So, yeah, so let's just dump all the sludge on it, because that would cost too much for the people who want to build the port to take the sludge somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole reason. To make money, to export coal. Yay.
Well, color me surprised.
All right. But I don't stop there, Mackie. Let me tell you, I don't stop there. Remove forest in Tasmania from the World Heritage listing again, so they can cut it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's devastating to our tiny little map of Tasmania. It's a small island below Australia, guys. Also, allow big employers to go overseas, like Holden, which is General Motors, Ford, Ardmona, that's the canning, the fruit and vegetable, fruit canning, Marshall Batteries, because they were in support of the local manufacturing of motor vehicles. They've reintroduced, or just about to, work for the dole, because you could be unemployed indefinitely in this country and still receive some kind of benefit. That's gone. So now you have to work. That'll cut down a protest, because people won't be able to protest anymore, because they're all unemployed people. They control the media information, as we know, especially to do with the asylum seekers. They said, we're not going to tell anyone anything anymore. They've angered our nearest neighbour, well, not nearest neighbour, nearest influential neighbour, Indonesia. So bad that they've cut military ties with us now.
Yeah.
Yep. They've scrapped danger money for the troops, our Australian troops overseas.
Mm-hmm.
They used to receive an allowance, if you didn't know, that if they were to encounter or be put into a dangerous situation, they would get a slight allowance, like, overtime. They've announced this week that they're going to review the ownership of the ABC, which actually means sell the ABC and Triple J. And this was on the cards 6 years ago, with the Young Liberals put out a what we would change about Australia. The first thing was sell Triple J and sell the ABC. Not introduce advertising, because that wouldn't work, right? So,
that's right.
Yeah, and so Murdoch has said, woohoo, guess what? I'm going to buy it. He's already announced that he wants to buy it. So I think that was already in the plan. He's already, by the way, guys, this is within, and Parliament closed for 2 months. He's already dismantled the government climate research facilities and reporting bureau. Already increased, given the go ahead for the increase of the Murray-Darling water licenses. And no one else in the whole planet knows what that means, but the Murray River and the Darling River have no rainfall, almost zero rainfall. It's in drought. The water doesn't even hit the ocean, and yet what they're doing is now going to sell more water licenses so they can suck it dry. And there's no life in the river at the time right now. Anyway, now, because it's dead. It's a dead river. They've also turned seeking asylum into an illegal practice. Right? I haven't finished yet, but that's now illegal. You can't do that for some reason. The last one, this is the biggest shock of all. Even though receiving an envelope, not dissimilar to that, not showing my address, receiving an envelope in the mail might be a thing of the past. Do you know why? Because a survey, cunningly disguised as a survey to do with their service levels, asked one question, and the question was, what would be an acceptable mail delivery frequency? Daily, 5 days a week, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, every other week. There weren't that many choices, but to give you to push a point. And for the most part, those who didn't say 5 days a week said, you know what, 3 days would be all right. So you've got a majority of Australians who said they couldn't care less whether mail arrived 3 days a week or not, but the question was, what would be acceptable? So now the government's response is, do you know what? It's acceptable. Most people said it was acceptable to only deliver mail 3 days a week, but that cuts the wages of the delivery people because they'd no longer be working all that time. And they said, oh, but if you do want it 5 days a week for the rich people, you can spend $30 and have it delivered all year round. What? But they're already profiting between $200 and $300 million a year to deliver anything to anywhere because it's all cost driven. It's all user pays, and they're not losing money. So what they want to do is try and siphon even more money out of the place, and this I find disgusting. I didn't vote for them. There should be a limit, right? The Prime Minister himself, and this goes for the President. Think about how this applies in America, and for that matter, all around the world. The head of your country should be made to wear an outfit made with the advertising logos of each of their sponsors in proportional size relative to the contributions made to them. And then they could be examined for their practices in relation to those sponsors, i.e. a racing car driver. He's got sponsorship logos on him. I think the head of the leader of your country should be made to wear that.
I think an electric shock collar would be better.
Oh yeah, and every Australian can have a little remote control like an iPhone happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I read this story once where, the person in charge on this far away planet had absolute power, but there was also no law. In fact, political assassinations were encouraged. So if the leader did something someone else didn't like, boom! Suffice it to say, the story concluded there was leadership change quite often, and nobody really wanted to do it. So
I like the sound of that. But there was one last point in this. And at the moment, the news is all about them poisoning our nation with anti-union sentiment. It costs too much to have unions. Wages are too high. They stifle development and business practice. And it's my prediction. I'll say it right here, right now on this station. I'm going to say it, Mickey. Is that the next thing that they're going to do is abolish them altogether or make them powerless again by and wait for it, the new workplace banning of collective bargaining and the reintroduction of an inequality of wages for people doing the same job. So if Meki and I are doing the same job at work, he could get $40,000 more for the same job. And
which would be fair.
Yeah, that's completely
considering
fair.
I'm taller, so.
So I don't think that's fair with male and female doing the same job. I don't think it's fair with two people of the same sex or in different sex. That's not the right way. Different sex. A person should be paid the same amount for the same job. And I don't care who you are, but there should be a window of which a person can elevate themselves within that role, and when they hit a limit, they hit a limit. You're only going to get CPI or something after that. No, I agree. There needs to be a cap, specifically on executive salaries, in my mind. Agreed.
Look at the discrepancy or disparity, I should say, between the worker bees and the executive leadership is astonishing. In Australia, it's pretty big. In Europe, it's quite big, but in America, it is astronomical. It is I think the person, average, blue chip company there, I think it's 2,000 or 3,000 times the salary of the average employee. Now, is this one person worth 2,000 or 3,000 times? Well, I doubt that. I really do. Yeah. But that's where we're at right now. And in fact, it's much worse on Wall Street, by the way. If you're an investment bank, you don't even have to be an executive leader. You have, in fact, no responsibility of management for anything. You're just gambling someone else's money. Hurrah! Let's do that.
So I had to take everyone there for those reasons, because in the countries where there aren't unions, the workers are exploited to such an extent that you can die at work and there's no recourse.
Yeah.
The wages are so minimal at the countries where there aren't unions that the global companies take advantage of that by setting up shop there so they could pay them whatever they want.
Yep. Apple. I'm sorry to single them out, but they're making a gigantic profit, you know, and whoever is a fanboy out there should think about that, or fangirl for that matter.
Remember,
you know,
that people died in manufacturing of their items. They don't care.
No. Nike. Sorry, look, I'm singling out, you know, corporations
it's
here.
only because they're the one. They are doing it. We know it. You know, it's out there.
Yep. I think every corporation does it. I think because each corporation has only got one single goal. Okay, now they're now legal entities, so they can be represented in court. That doesn't make them moral entities, so they don't have any ethics. You know, not really. I mean, even though you go to ethics training if you work for one, it's funny. But essentially, the single purpose of a corporation is to make money for the owners or shareholders. That's it. Do yourself a favor and watch this documentary. It's called Corporation. Yeah, but it's fairly easy to remember. So go out there and have a look. There are others as well. The Yes Man, for example. But the Corporation is a fantastic documentary on well, I mean, there's really no social responsibility with these companies. They have only one thing in mind, which is making money, and you move them to small or large countries where there's no union protection, where they can charge. Where they can pay the workers whatever they like. They can make the working conditions pretty much whatever they like. I mean, if you look at recently Bangladesh, for instance, you know, in fact, most of the world's clothes are now produced in South Asia, India, Bangladesh, and so forth, and you pay a premium, and they get nothing, and then the buildings they're in are substandard. I mean, come on, the factory, at least make the factory sound. Come on,
they can't do that. The buildings fall down and kill people, right? Like all the employees.
Yeah, and there were some horrendous pictures shown there. And I mean, these are just regular folk that are sewing. They're sewing. That's what they're doing. They're sewing stuff, you know, together. And the building wasn't safe. But even though the building inspector said it wasn't safe, the owner forbade the workers to go home or not come to work, and made them work there. So I think that person is now being either prosecuted or charged, or I think maybe not quite yet apprehended. I'm not sure. I didn't follow the story, but I think they're trying to catch whomever it is that was running that particular business. They may have already caught them as well. But I mean, something has to change, Dave. Something has to give. I mean, and something will give eventually, right?
Well, you know, it's funny you say court, because I can only imagine, you know, what's known as a kangaroo court.
Yeah,
that's what I would see would happen, right? Just a kangaroo court, and you said whoever it is that was running it, that guy could disappear in a wink.
Yep, that's a fact. I mean, this is cash. It's cash. We're talking about massive cash, right?
Yeah.
And this brings me to a slightly divergent topic. It's the profit motive, essentially, right? So now, what is the profit motive? The profit motive is essentially a thought construct around crime or injustices that are conducted or undertaken with the single, I guess, view to making a quick buck or a large buck, right? So when people look at crime, they look for a motive. If people look for blue-collar crime, they look usually for, you know, jealousy and hatred and racism and whatever it might be, right? If it's a white-collar crime, it's usually a profit motive. Now, somebody's making money somewhere, and this is really where it gets interesting when it comes to recent corporate crimes. You know, things like the economic meltdown, which saw a massive redistribution of wealth from Main Street to Wall Street. That, in my mind, was driven by the profit motive as well. Then you have got 9/11, which was, and people don't want to see this. They don't believe, and that's okay too. And in fact, I did a lot of research this week because we're going to bring a different show than we are. I haven't got my webcam on. Sorry, Dave. Let me just fix that. Hang on. Here we go. So, and we wanted to bring you a debunking show, but I looked at, there I am. Hello.
It's good. Well done. You've done
wearing a red shirt in honor of the Chinese New Year that we're currently celebrating. Now, sorry, so we're going to bring you a show about debunking, but then the more I looked at this debunking, and Dave did some research as well, the more we realized just how much mud there was. And people are getting away from the actual, how can I say this best? The actual, the crux, the core of the problem, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the buildings were brought down by thermate or thermite, or if there was a nuclear explosion let off underneath it, or if a missile was fired into the building, or if in fact the planes did crash into it. It doesn't. That doesn't matter. None of that actually matters.
Yep.
The buildings are destroyed, and the people are dead, and the world has changed as a result. I think we can all agree on that.
And there's no rolling it back to before then, to our mentality. Yeah.
Correct. That's exactly right. So the problem here then is, how do we address the core of the issue? Now we have to get the conversation back to it. That's what we have to do. The conversation is, or should be, around, well, okay, so who is responsible for this crime? And I don't want to get caught up in technicalities. I think there's a lot of things that haven't been explained. I know people constantly point to the the reports that come out, the official reports from, the U.S. Geological Survey, and then the NIST report, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that's fine. The 9/11 Commission report, which is a joke. I actually read it. And a lot of things that aren't addressed at all by any of these things. And
you're not getting that time back.
No, that's right. That's gone. And you have the problem that you have is that some things are omitted, some things are if you omit something, you're not lying about it, you're just not mentioning it, right? That's really the key thing that they've been doing here. And you have to look at all the other surrounding things as well. I mean, the $2 trillion that were announced lost on September 10. The $2 billion payout for the towers to Mr. And I forget his name now. It escapes me entirely. Sorry, my bad. But Silver, Larry Silverstein.
Yeah,
that's
Silverstein.
Right. The leaseholder, Larry Silverstein. I guess the Freudian slips of the mayor at the time, as well as the reports from the firefighters immediately immediately afterwards, where there was no time to censor it, I guess. And then you got 19 people of Middle Eastern descent with box cutters hijacking, in fact, 4 planes. And at the same time, you've got war games going on, which with the very same scenario. Then the same thing happens again in London, where they have another drill with the same kind of scenario happening there. And every time we have this kind of event, this kind of terrorist attack against the civil population, you find there's some kind of drill going on, or test, or war game, or whatever it might be, that is very, very similar to the actual event, which of course serves to confuse issues, right? So anyway, I'm digressing though. So we will bring you a debunking show going forward, where we're trying to get back to the actual core topics of each discussion, rather than, and this is happening a lot, where people are being disparaged, like personal attacks. And I found a very funny excerpt, which I will share with you in probably 3 weeks' time, because we've got a few guests. I do have one news item though I do want to share, which
please,
I found interesting. And
bring it.
I haven't gotten to the bottom of it, Dave. Now this is the Bigfoot. A news story. You probably have heard of it. So there's this guy, Rick Dyer, in the States, who says, from Nevada, in fact, who says he shot a Bigfoot. In fact, he shot a Bigfoot in 2012. I think it was toward the end of 2012. Now, I've seen the pictures here, and I look at it, and it looks like a big, hairy mountain man, with fur, but the face is definitely a human rather than ape-like. Did he shoot him? I don't know. Dyer says he's the Bigfoot is 243 centimeters tall and weighs 363 kilograms, which would put him into the league of the Gigantopithecus, which is meant to be extinct. One of our one of the supposed forebears of the human race. I have a different opinion on that now. So, did he do it? Didn't he do it? I don't know. But I thought there was like a huge prize if somebody found Bigfoot, right?
Well, yeah, there would be, and certainly you'd have to give up the corpse to scientific study. Yeah. You would have to. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, and certainly the Finding Bigfoot team would love to come out. They'd be the first person. Get it out in the media straight away. Don't send it to science straight away. Yeah. Yeah,
but this would be a massive scientific breakthrough. I mean,
exactly.
this would be scientific, thing of the century. I mean, we're still finding species. Recently, we found a new species of dolphin, a river dolphin, right? Just last week.
Cool.
Yeah, no, we did. It's like a bottlenose kind of thing. But nonetheless, I mean, look, we found. My point is, we keep finding new species all the time, even though we are supposedly, so expert in everything, and everything is known already, and nothing new will surprise us. Blah blah blah. Sure. I tell you right now, there's a lot of stuff out there that is still amazing, all right, astonishing stuff. I reckon once we really examine the bottom of the ocean, the ocean floor, the floor of the Mediterranean, and so forth, we'll find some amazing things. That's my thought on that. And these are the news, unless we've got some more, Dave, on the news front.
I was just going to say, on that, exploring the deep sea. We've only been to the bottom of the deep sea in a very small patch. If you aggregated all of that together, it would be completely tiny. Very, very little of it. And one of the guys at work, a really nice fellow, and he said to me just the other day, he said, do I believe in mermaids? And I said, well, possibly. I said, I haven't seen evidence to say they don't exist. That's where I'm always at with this. Yeah. In
fact, there's a show there. That's a show.
There is. And he said that, have you seen the footage of the deep sea diving bell with something swim past the window and look back at like it realizes there's life in this big thing that's come into my world, and it swims past, looks back, and then swims away again. Now, whether it's CG or not, it doesn't really matter. But he said he was watching a documentary on the History or National Geo, and they were talking about it, and they were talking about that hoax film that was out that wasn't actually a hoax film. This is on Nat Geo. They said it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah, look, let's roll this back and think about this for a second. I mean, since you brought it up, we've been been on the planet, supposedly human beings, for 2, maybe 300,000 years. Current form. That's the scientific accepted time, which might be different from what Dave and I believe, but there it is. Hominids, like Gigantopithecus, Australopithecus, and so forth. Our forebears, about 6 to 7 million years. Okay, so that's when I guess we started evolving according to current scientific paradigm. In the water, we would have had a lot more time to evolve. In fact, there's a theory that we are not of the savanna of Africa at all, but rather we are water apes. There's the distribution of fat, the buoyancy of the breasts, a few other things. And babies, in fact, can swim immediately when they're born. In fact, you can have a water birth, and it's a lot easier on you. So there's a lot of things that would support that theory. Now, if that's true, then you would think, well, we've had life in the water, again, according to scientific paradigm, a lot longer than we have had life on land. So why then, is my question, would intelligent life, similar to ourselves, not have evolved in the water as well? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't think of a good reason why not. I mean, I look at some creatures in the ocean, like dolphins, like whales, like octopi, right?
Yep.
Which have a brain at least equivalent to ours. In fact, in the case of the octopus, has got it doesn't have hands and opposable thumbs, but has got something even better: tentacles, which are much more adept at manipulating small.
It has distributed processing.
Yes, that too. But see, and in the tactile sense, it must be astonishing. And we know they build nests, or like little dwellings for themselves. And we know in captivity they have navigated mazes, they have operated machinery, they've done all kinds of things. In fact, in Singapore, I was at the aquarium there. It's like a maritime museum, or like it's a maritime zoo, in fact. And they had some species of octopus there, and it looked at me, and I looked at it, and my brother, I think my brother was there, and I waved at it, and it waved at me, and I go, yeah, this is all probably just mimicry, and then I put my hand on the glass, and it put its tentacles exactly where my hand was. Okay, now you can say, oh, it's just mimicry, or it's just, I mean, well, your baby will do the same thing. Once again, this is my favorite example. It will mimic you as well, but to me, it shows something. I'm not saying it's Shakespeare or Einstein, but I think that creature that I was, communicating with to some extent, it was trying to communicate back.
Limiting the determination of it being sentient or not is probably our biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's the smartest creature in the ocean, that and a squid, they come from the same family. They're both able to do extraordinary tasks with memory, and unfortunately, they don't live a whole bunch. They don't live a whole bunch of years, yeah, which is a bit of a shame. But just because we know that they're really smart, we know they can achieve fantastic tasks we've given them. So why would it not use mimicry to communicate with you? It's doing something, you're doing something back. Just like a baby, like you said, it's got processing power, it's got input, it's got visuals, it's got the ability to move. It's going to do the same thing. Have you looked at a dog or a cat? Have you done the same thing? It doesn't copy you to the same extent. And these we live with. I think it's completely reasonable to assume or presume that it is smart, and it was trying to communicate with you.
Yes,
there's a lot of people that go there, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's 100%. And think about it as well. I mean, we have now in our mind set ourselves aside from nature. We no longer see ourselves as part of nature. We don't live within nature. We live in our cities, concrete jungles, whatever it might be. If we were to live much closer to nature, I think we would try to communicate, and in fact, I think we would be able to successfully communicate with a whole bunch of animals. Simply because we'd be more in tune with the animals, and the animals would probably respond to us as well, because again, these are not just flesh robots running around. These are creatures that have their own motivations, and while their thought processes might not be as complex as ours, I mean, who am I to say they're not? They could be. I mean, we think they're not, but you got creatures out there which are certainly worthy of consideration when it comes to communication. I mean, people are trying to talk to dolphins, right? And they've taught sign language to chimpanzees, so they're communicating meaningfully. It's not just random hand movements; they're conveying meaning that way. So it's extremely arrogant of ourselves to just ignore those facts. And similarly, again, with creatures in the sea. I think I mean, we haven't even started scratching the surface. Pardon the fun. The fun pun. We haven't. And who knows what awaits us in the crust? I mean, maybe there are creatures living in the crust. We've drilled 12 kilometers in one place. That's all we know about the world's crust.
That's the deepest hole, and it was in Russia by the Russians, and the second deepest wasn't very far away from it at 8 kilometers.
Yeah.
And they've been stopped. The drilling was stopped. It wasn't. They just ran out of funds. They wanted to keep going.
Oh yeah. Plus, it's also extremely difficult because as you drill, the both pressure and heat increased as they were going forward, right? So it's actually quite. Even if the material was the same, the density of the material would change. Granite and so forth. But anyway, the point is that it's very, very difficult to do that. So, and we don't really know what's going on inside the Earth. We've got a fair idea, some theories, but don't make no mistake that, in fact, Edmund Halley of Halley's Comet fame once put forward a theory, and it was widely accepted, that the Earth consisted of concentric shells. So an Earth within an Earth, like a babushka doll, if you can imagine that. Because he needed to explain electromagnetism. I mean, why do we have an electromagnetic field around the Earth? Why? Well, the only sensible reason is if we have metal rubbing against metal. Right? So that's what happens. So we are now assuming it's liquid. Okay, he assumed it was not liquid, but this metal was rather coming in the form of concentric spheres within the Earth.
And we found through our research that the mercury, liquid mercury, magnetic field is very similar to the Earth's magnetic field. Yeah,
that's right. So who's to say? I mean, who knows? I mean, the moon doesn't have an electromagnetic field. Okay, so like if you do a compass to the moon, be useless because there is no north, south, east, or west.
Never thought of that. That's hilarious.
It doesn't tell you anything. But it's true, though, right? So, so we at least we can say that about the moon. There's no liquid molten metal running around, rubbing against itself. So there must be something else, I guess, on the inside of the moon. Now we know that
aliens.
Most likely is maybe it's a large hollow. We know that there must at least be very, very large caverns if it's not entirely hollow, because it did ring like a bell when it was struck deliberately. That's a fact. You can't argue that away. Well, we've ranged wide and far here, Dave, haven't we?
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to let's do the main topics on the other side of the hour. Do you reckon?
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Yeah, because look, I wanted to read out this letter, and we talk a bit about a troll and some trolling to do with the poor late rest in peace Lloyd Pye. And in his defence of his research, armchair skeptics, without doing any research of their own, just cutting pasting some headlines, we're deciding to debunk the entire thing, and we wanted to do not a full show, but just read this letter. And this letter comes from Dr. T.J. Robinson of North Vancouver. He's Canadian. And he says in the letter, he also lists, which I won't read, but he lists his credentials, and he says that he is a specialty degree in plastic and reconstructive surgery from the Royal College of Surgeons of Canada in 1971, and that he goes on to describe many facets about the Star Child skull, which I thought Mekki and we might just do point by point each.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, because go ahead.
No, maybe a little bit about his background. So, Lloyd approached this doctor about a year after they first met, back in 1998. And asked him if he would participate in research of the so-called Star Child, as he was aware of the background in medicine and plastic surgery, with knowledge of cranial surgery and cranial anatomy. So this is not a layman. This is a person that is actually the perfect person to examine the skull. Now, having agreed to his request, Lloyd then delivered the skull to his possession in 1999, and it remained in his possession for a period of 2 years. This afforded him time to, carry out the required extensive investigation of the skull, and he involved numerous specialist friends and colleagues of his in the investigation. Now, these gentlemen were specialists in the disciplines of radiology, ophthalmic surgery, oral surgery, craniofacial surgery, neurology, and pediatric neurosurgery. Okay. Now, in his opinion, this is just the opinion of Dr. T.J. Robinson, and he gave his address there as well, so you can go and find him. The skull is remarkable. It is humanoid.
Might get him on.
I think we should.
Yeah.
But unlike any skull he has ever seen, in his 49 years of experience as a medical doctor and plastic surgeon, he has never seen anything like that. Now, this is in direct response to the troll who asked us for evidence. Something that would stand up and where the experts, where the scientists. Of course, what would happen now, and this is my full expectation once I've posted it as well, is that they would deride this gentleman's character. They would find something in his past, maybe I don't know, whatever, and or maybe they would say, he's really not the expert, and there's no peer-reviewed literature, and who are these other specialists that he's talking about? And if there are no names to his friends, I wouldn't be surprised, because the truth is this: a lot of people that come in contact with unusual things usually don't talk about it. They shut out about it. They don't want to have their careers tainted or their names dragged through the mud by the establishment. It's the same with UFO sightings. In fact, it's probably endemic when it comes to UFO sightings. People like pilots, military people, and so forth that would be in a perfect position to observe these phenomena on a regular basis, and they do not wish to talk about it, because it would be detrimental to the career. So if someone were on their deathbed or retired and independently wealthy, at that point, I would expect them to speak out. But, not very many.
And what you're also going to hear are the names of the people who did the tests, where they work, and what their roles are at those workplaces.
Yep.
And so that is peer review if you've ever heard it.
Yeah, but I'm sure, and again, I'm just somebody will come along, maybe another troll, and we'll drag it through the mud for some reason.
Once again.
So Dave, yeah, like without further ado, let's do this thing.
Okay, so for everyone out there, this is the Lloyd Pye Star Child skull. It's not aptly named; it's just a skull. So carbon 14 dating of the skull places its age at about 900 years. Plus or minus 40 years.
Correct, sir. It is also remarkably light and weighs about half of the weight of a human adult skull. The cranial capacity is about 1600 cubic centimeters, which is 400 cubic centimeters larger than an average human adult of the same size.
Wow. It is composed of a bony material which is so hard that a standard Dremel blade had great difficulty cutting it to harvest samples for DNA analysis, making a diamond-coated blade more useful.
I remember when Lloyd spoke about that,
yeah.
How much trouble they had cutting into the skull.
Also, the burning smell. He also mentioned the burning smell. The burning smell.
Yes.
His
absolutely.
dentist friend said that smells like tooth enamel.
Yes. In fact, we'll come to it, but
yeah.
It is much closer to tooth enamel than bone, in fact. So the biochemical mineral analysis or bone histochemistry shows a different composition than mammalian bone. This analysis was conducted in England at a later date.
Scanning electron microscopy, or SEM, indicates the presence of strange fibers of an unknown nature. These are not artifactual. There is also a mysterious red residue. He spoke about that.
Yes.
That can be seen in the cancellous holes on SEM microscope cross sections of the bone. So he said it looked like blood residue, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because blood, when it oxidizes, turns black.
That's right.
Okay, so obviously this residue is red. It's not black residue. If it were blood, then the residue would in fact be black. I saw the pictures online as well, and they're on his site, and they're also in the book that he electronically published. If you want to have a look at that, guys. Now, the frontal sinuses are absent on X-ray and CT scans. The X-rays and CT scans were carried out by Dr. David Hodges at the Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster, British Columbia, on September 3, 1999. He, meaning
Dr. Robertson,
the doctor, met with Dr. Ken Poskett, an experienced pediatric neuroradiologist at British Columbia's Children's Hospital. And upon reviewing the photos of the skull, the X-rays and the CT scans, he stated, now he being Dr. Ken Poskett, that he had never seen anything like it. Dr. Poskett has reviewed tens of thousands of pediatric skull X-rays. Now, a pediatric just means he's a children's doctor. So he's seen tens of thousands of skull X-rays, never quite one like that.
Exactly. The next point here in the letter from Dr. T.J. Robinson, I think it is,
yes.
He says, a bony prominence on the posterior aspect of the skull known as the inion, that's right, the inion, to which the ligamentum nuchae, trapezius muscle consistently attach in humans and primates, is absent.
Mm.
So there's no muscle attachment ligament.
Mm. We'll give you a summary of these things in a second, but that's a lot of all of things put together should have meant that this unfortunate, if in fact it was an unfortunate child with male formed skull bones and so forth, shouldn't have lived
at all.
Should not have lived with all these things. Now, the eye sockets are very shallow, and there are other characteristics of the configuration of the posterior orbital foramina that are highly unusual and that differ significantly from that of humans. Dr. Anthony Townsend, an experienced senior eye surgeon, was struck by the shallowness of the orbits. He said that this could be consistent with anophthalmos, okay, which is a congenital absence of the eyes. What contradicts this, however, is the presence of large optical foramina, which suggests that the eye that the being was sighted. So there was an eye there in which was being used. Dr. Hugh Parsons, a prominent retinal surgeon, further states that if the being were anophthalmic, the entire orbit would be small. Dr. Robertson, therefore concludes that I'm on solid grounds in stating that the being was most likely sighted. So two experts, Dr. Hugh Parsons and Dr. Anthony Townsend, even though the malformity or the mutation there would be ophthalmic or anophthalmic, it's not because of the various other features. They are stating that the being most likely could see. So there's no absence of the eye.
Nope.
It just is very different from us.
That's right. There is no evidence that the flattening of the posterior aspect of the skull was a result of cradle boarding, and the type of flattening that is present is distinctly different from what would be present in cradle boarding infants.
Yeah, cradle boarding, guys, is when you try to change the shape of the skull.
Mm-hmm. And so that's proven that they're saying that is a dead set not the case at all.
Yeah, correct. Now, Dr. Robertson then goes on to say that he has worked with Paul Tessier, who is a pioneering leader in craniofacial surgery in France. He, Dr. Robertson, has seen every type of craniofacial deformity known to exist. This skull did not result, in his opinion, from any known congenital deformity. There's your expert, Mr. Troll.
That's
right. What do you think?
Paul Tessier. You go annoy him, please. For any more information, if you need someone else, you won't find anyone bigger than that in his field of expertise. The being was not hydrocephalic. Hydrocephaly is a common deformity which is characterized by entirely different deformities from the anatomical characteristics seen in this skull.
Yep. The CT scans were reviewed by two prominent craniofacial surgeons, Dr. Ian Taylor, who was at the Mayo Clinic at the time, and Dr. Joe Gruss of Seattle. Both said they had never seen anything like it. It, of course, being the skull.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Standard measurements of the skull, normally conducted by an oral surgeon in New Westminster, BC, British Columbia, revealed that the measurements of the skull were 10 standard deviations away from the median of the bell curve. This is an extraordinary finding, says the doctor. The baseline studies to establish the norm of these measurements were conducted by an oral surgeon in Michigan and were done on a database of several thousand Aboriginal or First Nation North American skulls. One can only reasonably conclude from these statistical studies that the Star Child skull is distinctly different from human. Take the conclusion.
Now, if you guys haven't studied statistics, and I don't blame you if you haven't, I have. It's boring as all bats, I tell you. But I did. I studied statistics at university. It was part of my course, general statistical methods, and then later I also studied statistical analysis as part of my psychology course. Now, what does the 10 standard deviations from the mean or from the median? It says the median of the bell curve. Now, that is extremely significant. If you were to conduct a study yourself with a sample size, a significant sample size or whatever, and then compare something else to it, and you found 10 standard deviations, you would be flabbergasted. Most of us live within 2 or 3 standard deviations of the median. Okay, if you've seen a bell curve, 68% of us fit under the first two standard deviations, and then you've got outliers as well, of course. But the vast majority of the human population is within 2 or 3 standard deviations. Then you go out to 4, 5, 6, 10 standard deviations is extremely significant.
It's a different curve entirely.
Yeah. So you're way on the outlier. You've always got outliers on each bell curve, to the left and the right. but 10 standard deviations from the median is well, not unheard of, but certainly extremely significant. Now, in conclusion, he says, the skull is a fascinating enigma. It is real, and it is different from any human skull I've ever seen personally or found in the medical literature. Despite his age, the doctor, he continues to be involved in aspects of medical research at the University of British Columbia, and he follows the Star Child story with great interest. He hopes that Lloyd will one day soon have raised sufficient funds to analyze the entire DNA genome of this specimen. Research to date on about 10% of the genome indicates significant differences from human or from any known primate or any other specimen in the NIH database. Now, this was back, obviously, when Lloyd was still alive. Lloyd has now passed away, but the research, I believe, continues. I'm not sure enough money has been raised for the entire genome to be decoded. However, we shared a news story with you last week, I think it was last week, which said that the decoding of the genome is getting a lot cheaper, and even for a few $1,000s, you can have your entire genome decoded for you. Now, it's not commercially available yet, but apparently that's coming our way. So I would definitely suggest that the Star Child skulls DNA should be undergoing that greatly cheapened.
Yep. Do you mind the last line, the last significant line in this in his letter, in Dr. T.J. Robinson's letter, really says, it sums it up for me. And he says, "I do not care to speculate on its origins, extraterrestrial or otherwise, as I prefer to base my opinions on evidence-based research."
Yep.
That says it all. He's not leaping to any conclusions. He's saying, you know what, this is so significantly different, I have to use that word again, from anything else that I can't rule it, I can't say it's human.
Yeah.
All right, at the moment. And that's what he's saying.
And that's the key thing, you know, this website that was put up by the troll in defense of his argument was saying the exact same thing. It seems there's something unique or strange or, you know, peculiar about this skull, and it bears further examination, because none of the people commenting on that particular skeptic site said anything that furthered the discussion around it. Mm-hmm. It's okay to debunk it. I mean, if somebody comes along and says, "Oh, you know, the Star Child skull is in fact 100% human and suffered from this extremely rare condition which only afflicts 1 in 2 billion people," or whatever, right? Then okay, right, fair enough. But mystery solved, right? Mystery solved. However, this has not happened, and the research that has been conducted shows that it actually varies quite greatly from us for the most part. It has certain features that we don't have. You know, the material of the skull itself is different as well. It is not bone. It is more enamel than bone. I don't know of any congenital defect that turns your skull bone into a tooth enamel. But
or the fibers. Where do the fibers come from?
The fibers, which are extremely resilient fibers, very hard to cut through. In fact, that's where the burning smell came from as well. And they didn't cut; they frayed. Even with the diamond drill, that's what Lloyd said. They didn't cut, and he's got pictures of that on his site if you want to see it, magnified significantly, of course. So it is a mystery, guys, and Dave and I we're in the business of mystery. We bring you mysteries. You make up your own mind, right? Now, if somebody wants to have a similar letter and send it to us on all the things that are making this skull human, we will read that too. I haven't found anything. Right, that with the same level of detail and then with named specialists having conducted all the research. So anybody has it, send it. We'll read it just in the same fashion.
Yeah, and the last argument that I'll put out there against anyone saying it is human, just based on the DNA results, saying that it contains human DNA. Well, yeast contains human DNA. Yeast has 26% matching DNA to humans.
That's the music.
Perfectly timed, Mackie. We'll see you on the other side of a very short break. Hold tight.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Meckie's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, Hawk. The #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. But since it is listener-funded radio, if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the on the site support page, that is, and push the donate button. Hawk's right. Do it to tell him that you like us. Do it to keep the radio station running. It's really important that Hawk gets an idea of who likes whose shows. If you could, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. I have to say, Meki, last week we were 5th on TSL. 5th.
I know.
Woohoo!
Pretty good.
It is.
Pretty good. It is. It was a mammoth show, though. I mean, it was a long show.
4-hour show.
We covered a lot, right?
We sure did.
I think.
And
thank you, Solaris, by the way, for the first 2 hours of your time. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I have to say, we didn't have really any time to appreciate the kind of data she was giving us, and I re-listened to the show, and I was like, wow.
I know.
There's so much. I really had no clue, and it was. I have to say, here's a plug. Here's a plug for Solaris's DVD. She does. It's a disclosure in covert technology. Eye of the Remote. Check it out. I was just astonished and astounded. We talked about those kind of remote viewing and remote things that all the different countries of the world have done, but to know that they were using this on real people in the public, and surprises everywhere. I was going to say thank you to. We've had some people buy our mugs, Mickey. Our mugs.
Are you serious?
Yeah, completely.
Sweetness.
How
many?
You had to ask. 2.
Well, that's more than none.
But that's right. Those 2 people are going to enjoy the mug of this millennium. It's a big call. It's a very nice mug, and thank you to both of those people. It could have been the same person. I don't know. Just says a quantity. And you're going to enjoy that mug. And for all those who don't have one, these are limited edition, people. They're
limited by how many you can buy.
Woohoo! Oh, I'm trying all of the right terminology, Mackie.
No, this guy.
We have a warehouse full.
Limitations. No. And we just got a message from Marco the Beast in the chat room. Yes, the Cathars and Manicheans I'm talking about now, guys. We are coming to you now with that. So bear with us just for a second. Dave is sharing good information here. Around the mugs that can be purchased, from Zazzle, isn't it, Dave? Zazzle.com.
It sure is. If you just go to our website, shinysideout.net, go there, and all the links are available.
We had over 5,000 hits on that now, which is brilliant, I think.
It is. It is brilliant. And, people make a choice, Becky. They can jump into the chat room. They can download this show on... they can podcast it. They can go to YouTube. They can listen to us live. They can go to our website and listen to it. Just have it in the background. There's all the different applications. You can use it wherever you are. We're available everywhere.
Yep.
If you've got a way of listening to us somewhere, we're there. We're already there. You want to keep up to date with what we're talking about between Mackie and I during the week? It's on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. There you go. It's all there. It's there. It's everywhere. You know what? Get out there and be part of it. Be part of it. Talk to us off air. Mackie, I'm just as a little precursor, I've lined up some really good guests coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I know. How good! I mean, guys, Dave did a brilliant job. Then, in fact, one of the greats, all-time greats of I guess our genre, as it were, Dave specifically, and another great
of our genre.
So Dave, please, I mean, they're your gets. Come on, give us a name. Give us a name, love.
All right, ever been called love? I'm gonna show off my chroma key to those people watching on YouTube. We've got Jason Martell coming live, doing a live show with us next week, and the week after that, Stanton Friedman. Did you know? Did you know, Mackie? He went to university with Carl Sagan.
Did he?
They were in the same class. Wow. And didn't they take different directions? We're going to ask him about that.
Such divergent life paths. Look, absolutely. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
One went corporate. They both worked at NASA. One went corporate, and one went into the other field when he just started learning a bit too much about what was really going on. And Carl did toe the line.
Yeah.
He did toe the line. So, hat off to someone who's able to be presented with the stuff and still toe the line. Good for you. So they're the 2 guests coming up, I have to say. And there's a couple of conferences coming up in Sydney. I think it's in April or May, but I'll be, for those people in Australia that can get to it, I'll give you some detail. We won't be there. I'll actually be there as a guest. Sorry, not a guest, as just a person in the audience. But there are some ones coming up, and they're going to be really good to do with, I think, Mary Rodwell is...
okay.
She's going to be speaking there, and there's some really good information that's coming out about the new Earth.
Oh, brilliant!
So look forward to that. We might have her back on when she's got a slide deck together.
That'd be very interesting.
So Meki, I'm going to segue.
Yes. Segue to the Cathars. Now, last week we shared with you the hypothesis, which has taken the better part of of 3 decades to comprise. It does not, maybe because it is so broad, it does not seem to have any gaps, or the information that is coming through seems to fit very neatly into it. Now, I don't think it's that broad a hypothesis. It's fairly well defined, and you now know what it is. I want to take it a little bit further and introduce you to some of the characters, some of the players, if you will, in the hypothesis, to the point of I guess my main point is to make you understand how dangerous this knowledge is. Right, and the key thing here to remember that these are all facts. Right, what I'm sharing with you is all a fact. As soon as I go into speculation, I will tell you that, and then you can make up your own mind. However, now, so we said that the hypothesis essentially is around us living in a prison box, in a material prison. The prison is in fact our body. Okay, the flesh and blood that we all live in. That's the prison for us, for the real us. So the brain is, according to the hypothesis, merely an interface, and the body an avatar, if you will, with which to navigate through this reality. Our higher selves are severely hampered by this physical body. They are severely diminished, and in fact, we are forced into a 4-dimensional thinking, linear thinking, as it were. Because that's the way this particular body is designed. It's forward-looking, right? We can't look back. It's forward-looking, so therefore most of our thought processes are linear and forward-looking. That's just the way, the basic biology of our bodies, and it was designed this way on purpose. Same with most other creatures on this planet. Not all, but most. Now, it is the contention of the hypothesis that this imprisonment is not willing. We're not willing participants in some kind of experiment, but we're kept here against our will. We're kept here for whatever nebulous purpose, so therefore the material world is bad, right? So everything that you do here is bad because it just ties you further and further to this material world, and in which we're kept through reincarnation. So when you die, it doesn't just end. No, when you die, you come back and back and back and back and again and again and again. You're kept here until forever. To what end? Once again, no one knows. I don't know yet. Maybe someone does. Now, this hypothesis, and this is funny because this hypothesis grew in my mind over many years, right? And the more I read, and the more I learned, and the more I tried to make sense of the world, the more this hypothesis took shape. And then I shared it with Dave as well, and we looked at it together with my brother also, and we came up with a few different variations. But the point is, I did not pick it up from somewhere. Right? We didn't go around looking for different ways to look at the world. In fact, it was only in the conduct of the research, while we were conducting it, that we came across the Cathars, the Albigensian Crusades. That's really where it started. And then through that learned of the Bogomils and the Manicheans, as well as the Paulicians, and in fact even further. Older mystery schools, but then another personal experience I was a part of. I was initiated into a group of people. You can't say religion; that would be wrong. It's a way of life, and not everybody can get in there. And you actually have to go through some kind of, I guess, initiation ritual, if you will, and you're given a certain information at that point. It turns out that particular school of thought is the same. Or very similar to what I had been moving toward all my life, I guess. So again, it's I guess it's serendipity that I came across these people, and they took me into their midst, more or less, right? And it's really the core beliefs or the core structure that is astonishing, because it's the same as the Cathars. It's very similar to the Manicheans, Bogomils, and so forth. Now, okay, so who are these people then, and what is this thought construct? Again, it is about being stuck here in this world, in the flesh prison, in this corrupt body. You reincarnated over and over again into this world, to no end, not to learn anything, just to be kept here. So there's a whole bunch of official religions that have skewed the hypothesis, or what I think might be the fundamental reality, into a purpose. So all of the aspects of our imprisonment have been skewed a different way. Yeah, there's reincarnation, but it's actually here, it's good, you're learning stuff as you go along. Well, no, I don't think so. It is up to you to escape this prison, and there seems to be only one way to do that. Well, two ways. One is through extreme asceticism, meaning you must forego all earthly pleasures. You have to be vegetarian. You have to, focus on your mind, the development of your inner faculties, your inner values, as well as strengths, powers, if you will. So that's important. Okay, so you can't partake in earthly pleasures. You should not have children either if you're a perfecti. That's what the Cathars call the masters or the initiate class of people. You don't have to do that. Again, in the Cathar belief system or the Manichean belief system and so forth, but it's certainly good if you do, because that's a surefire way of getting out. Now, it also appears that people that have gotten out have come back. I'm talking about the Buddhas, the spiritual leaders, the masters that have been back reincarnated here to help us along, to make this place a better place. It doesn't have to be the prison it is. We made it a hell, by the way we are. So, there seems to be that aspect to it. But they all of the mystery schools believe in reincarnation. They all believe that this is a prison, and that we're here against our will, and that everything here is essentially the creation of an evil entity. Now, I don't like to put good and evil out there as concepts, because they're very subjective. I like to talk about two opposing poles, two opposing concepts, two opposing powers. I don't care what you want to call it. It's the yin and yang. It's dualism in its purest form, and good and evil is very subjective. So let's just say that what's happening here is not good for us. Okay, it's not good for our spirits, our souls, as it were, who belong somewhere else. This is not the real home, Dave. This is just a place where we're kept right now. So there's a higher self out there, which we should be going to. In fact, when we dream, not all dreams, but when we dream, sometimes our dreams can take us to this higher place, because we can roam freely once we dream, because we're released from the bodily constrictions of consciousness. And consciousness is what keeps us here, right? So we're consciously aware of this world. We're shutting down all our higher senses by being actively connected to this four-dimensional world. But in a dream, you can actually escape and look around. And in your dream, for the most part, everything makes sense, because your consciousness is bigger. Your capacities are bigger. You can understand more. So of course it makes sense. When you come back here, limited four-dimensional thinking, it doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit within it. Okay, that's the key thing here to remember. Now, okay, so these Cathars. Now, the Cathars were active in the 11th century, so some 1,000 years ago, if you will, in the Languedoc area of France, Occitania, if you will. It's a fairly independent region of France. They were called heretics by the church, by the Catholic Church, for their belief system. Funnily enough, they call themselves good Christians. The Cathars did. As did, in fact, all the others, like the Bogomils, the Manicheans, and so forth. They all called themselves Christians. The Gnostics also. Christians. The belief system was dualist, meaning there were two opposing forces rather than one all-powerful God who is responsible for both evil and good. And that this world was, in fact, the bad world, the material world, the evil world, the flesh incarnate world we need to escape from. They had a caste of people which were known as the perfecti, which are similar to the masters you find elsewhere. And the key thing here is, for the longest time, and this is, I'm saying here, thousands of years, this knowledge was only given from master to disciple. From master to disciple. Mm-hmm. It was not widely published or publicized, and there's a good reason for that, as you will see. Because as soon as it becomes widely known, and the same thing happened to the Manicheans, the Bogomils, and the Cathars, they were all killed. Well, obviously not all, but I would say the vast majority was killed, because what they believed went directly against the current of the belief system that they were in competition with, which was the Catholic Church, in fact. And before that, also for the Manicheans specifically, it was also Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and Catholicism as well again, and Zoroastrianism, in fact, that were in direct conflict with it. And it was all of those religions and ways of life that prosecuted these so-called heretics, all of them. In fact, the Manicheans spread as far as China. And there was a time, when some 500 years later, when they were all destroyed in China as well. In Vietnam, up until the 20th century, it was illegal to be a Manichean, believe it or not.
Really?
That was in the law, yes, sir. So it was widespread, and it was prosecuted almost without precedent. The only other people that were prosecuted as badly were the Jews. So, in fact, the Albigensian Crusade, which was conducted once again in the 11th century, took place in the Languedoc area and killed tens of thousands of people. All the Cathar cities, all the Cathar nobles were essentially wiped out in massive battles and wholesale destructions of cities. There's some reports coming back, in one city specifically, I can't remember the name, but essentially the general went to the Pope, to one of the bishops that was leading the crusade, and said to the bishop, look, there's a whole bunch of Catholics living there as well, probably as many as Cathars, so how do we tell the difference? We don't want to go in there and kill our own guys. And the bishop, and I will share with you the name when I come to it, maybe next time in the show notes, said, you know what, kill them all, God will know his own. So that's the popular phrase today, kill them all, let God sort them out.
Mm-hmm.
That it was coined at that time, and they were all killed. So in fact wiped out, and they were heretics because they didn't believe that Jesus died at the cross. For one, he was not actually physically there, because they believed he was more a spiritual incarnation rather than a physical incarnation. So he couldn't have died at the cross. That was one. So they didn't venerate the cross. They also believed in the poverty of the church. So all the Cathar perfecti, let's call them priest caste for an easy understanding, even though they were not priests. They were more like traveling monks or traveling preachers, if you will, right? And they were men and women doing that. So there was no difference between the sexes. And that was 1,000 years ago. Now, this is quite astonishing if you think about it. So they were extremely poor. They didn't own anything except for what they wore. The credentes are the people, the general believers, right? The general body of the church, if you will. They could do whatever. They could have children, of course. They could, they could eat meat and and do it and be a tradesman. In fact, there were very close links between the Cathars and the weavers at the time, the cloth trade. Very, very skillful craftsmen and artisans as well. So educated as well as skilled up. So they were quite prosperous. Now they could be saved though by the laying on of hands and receiving the consalamentum. I'm not pronouncing it right. It's like the consolement. It's laying on of hands, where you essentially receive like a last rite, which might allow you to escape reincarnation. But the only surefire way to escape it was to be, in fact, a perfecti, not eating meat, not engaging in any physical pleasurable activity, and so forth. Okay, so that's very important to note. Now, they were not the first to come up with these ideas. As I said, the Manicheans were one, the Bogomils were another. The Manicheans originated in the Middle East, in fact, what is today Syria and Iraq. Then the Bogomils, which originated in Bulgaria. Bogomil was again a traveling monk, and he was I guess proselytizing or evangelizing his creed back then. And there's some evidence that the Bogomil church and the Cathar church had close links, very close links, because they had a bit of cross fertilization while they were coexistent at the time. But they were all stamped out by the Catholic Church because it was a massive threat. Because what the Cathar Church promoted was living a good life. The church needs to be poor. Also, it promoted equality of the sexes. It promoted the rights of human beings. So human rights. It's 1,000 years before the Declaration of Independence, and I'm going to come to that in a second. And this thread runs throughout history of this. Once in a while, they pop up. This school of thought, it pops up. Like I said, the Bogomils, the Manicheans, the Cathars. There was the last time the Cathar, the Languedoc region was the last time it popped up in large numbers. Each time it was put down, they were all killed. And I want to say something here that might be very controversial. Okay, and this is where my speculation comes in. Up to this point, it's all fact. It's all fact. All happened. You can look it up yourself. This is where the speculation starts. What if Jesus were in fact a holy man, a traveler, a monk, whatever you want to call it, a philosopher that travels to the east and is exposed to the Gnostic belief system, because in essence these are Gnostic gnosis belief systems, very similar to the ones that flourished in Egypt as well, just after Christ.
It's all fact.
So what if he was exposed to that? And don't make no mistake, the Gnosis or the Gnostic religions predate Christianity as well. So he could have been exposed to the school of thought, because in the Bible it says itself, between the ages of 12 and 32, we don't really know what he was doing. We have no idea. We see him, he's talking in the temple to the rabbis, and he's having an argument with them, and he's winning it at the age of 12. So he was extraordinarily gifted. Not only that, we can also assume that he was extraordinarily educated, okay, for a child of his time. So his father was not a carpenter. His father was a master of the craft, and I'll talk about that some other time. So he was educated. He could hold a conversation, in fact, a debate with religious figures in the temple, rabbis and priests and so forth, and win the argument. Okay, now think about that. Okay, so for 20 years, then, what did he do? I say here, entirely speculative, that he went east. He was exposed to the teachings of Tao, of Buddha, of all those Manicheans as well, the dualist principles. And he might even have had spiritual revelations. I'm not saying he didn't. God might have spoken to him. Who knows? I mean, I wasn't there. The point is, I think what he came back with had nothing to do with Judaism and has very little to do with Christianity as we see it today. Very little. What happened is that he started preaching. He started talking about love, all the things we talked about as well. You know, you should. It is easier for a rich man. Sorry. Yeah, it is easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a needle. Sorry, no, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, which I believe means, in fact, the higher spiritual realms where we actually belong. And he was trying to tell us how to get there, and he did. The New Testament is full of clues, and I am aware of them now because I was made aware of them by the group that I joined some time ago. They made it very clear that these are the things that you have to look out for. And I thought, wow, this is astonishing stuff. Thank you very much. I can't really talk too much about it because people that know this get killed. Have been for the longest time. Now, so he has gone to the east. He learned a whole bunch of stuff and came back to the Middle East. Don't forget that. He didn't go to Europe. Okay, he was born in what is today Israel, and he also lived and died in what is today Israel. So he was a Middle Eastern person. And he started teaching. He wanted to reform, I think. He wanted to bring a different point of view of the things that he had learned from the mystery schools. He wanted to show us a way out. Okay, and believe it or not, but Christians in the beginning believed in reincarnation. Look it up for yourself. That's not speculation, that's a fact. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Jesus was a vegetarian. Maybe not, because he produced loaves and fishes, you know, for the Sermon on the Mount. But I don't know if he was a vegetarian. I know he ate bread, and I know he drank wine. I do not know if he ate or partook in meat and in any other pleasures for that matter. So he might have been a perfecter. He might have been a traveling, what we would probably term a beggar monk, as it were. But he had enough personal charisma and power, and I guess insight to attract a whole bunch of people to himself. Okay, that's really the key thing here. And as he did so, his flock grew, and he had 12 disciples and so forth. And then, you know, he disappeared, he died, whatever the case may be, but he was gone. And then his legacy was taken forward by his disciples. But what happened then in the intervening couple hundred years is it changed. It changed. Now, there was a multitude of different Christian sects, like hundreds, literally, right, all around the Mediterranean, reaching into Europe even, all around the Roman Empire, in fact, at the time, right? So the Roman Empire didn't become Catholic until 400 AD under Constantine, okay? Only when he turned Catholic or Christian was the state religion Christians. But for hundreds of years before that, various different sects flourished all over the Roman Empire and a bit further, in fact. And they all had different approaches. They all had different views on this belief system that we now call Christianity. Very different, in fact. And so what happened in 357, I believe it was, there was the Council of Nicaea was called, in which all bishops got together, all respectable bishops, I should say, within the Roman Empire, because it was about that time that the state religion became Catholicism, or Christianity, and they decided what the content of the Bible should be. They decided which books to include and exclude. Okay, we're talking about the New Testament specifically. There are a lot of books that were not included. In fact, can you recall of a female prophet or a female disciple or apostle being mentioned in the New Testament? No, but they are. Okay, they are. They are the apocryphal texts. They've got the texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls and Qumran. You've got other Gnostic texts which refer to that. So you've got a whole bunch of texts which were excluded because they did not conform to the view that the Roman Empire wanted to portray. You needed a religion that kept the people in check. So what they do, they scare them. They create this image of hell. There is no hell. Okay, not according. In fact, according to early Christianity, there was reincarnation, right? And this physical world was a bad place to be. So they create hell, and you better be good this life, otherwise you're gonna burn in hell. What does it mean to be good in this life? Well, you better listen to your church, for one. The church at this point was representing the interests of the state. So so religion was used by the state to control the people. Very smart, very, very smart, right? And to that end, people were being converted. If you didn't want to be converted, they'd kill you. And anybody who would challenge this new state religion would be termed a heretic and would meet a swift end. And that's exactly what happened to the Manicheans, to the Bogomils, to the Cathars, and to quite a few of the other Gnostic sects at the time. They went underground, where they had been before all of this happened as well. So Christianity was perverted, taken from its true course, which explains why the Cathars called themselves good Christians. Right? They, in their mind, believed that they were the representatives of the actual faith, of the actual knowledge that had been passed down through the ages, of which Jesus was just one of the messengers, in my opinion. Not what the Cathars believed, that's what I believe. So you take that further now, okay? You take it further into the future and into our present modern day times, almost. So the Cathars were destroyed. Interestingly enough, the Knights Templar did not take part in the crusade. The Knights Templar, in fact, were on very good terms with the Cathars. And the Knights Templars were to meet their end about 200 years later, at the hands of, once again, Catholic Church. The Knights Templar themselves are very interesting characters, and we might do a show on them, but they seem to have found something in Jerusalem. They seem to have gotten knowledge or power or wealth that really put the fear of God into the Catholic Church, because they were given pretty much license to whatever they wanted in Europe. They became the first bankers. The first money transfer systems were, not invented, but I guess, but put into use by the Knights Templar. So they became a very powerful order, even threatening kings, specifically the King of France. So, but nonetheless, some 200 years after the Cathars were stamped out, the Knights Templar met with a similar fate, also under the banner or stamp, if you will, of heretic. They were devil worshippers, all these wonderful things that the church accused them of. And in the final analysis, if you think about it, because the God of the Bible, of the Catholic Bible, is in fact the great adversary. And the good God, who has no power here in the physical world, is not actually mentioned in that particular Bible. In fact, he's the great adversary of the Bible, and I believe that's exactly what the Cathars believed. In fact, that's what they believed, and I believe that's what the Knights Templars came to believe, because they must have maybe unearthed some knowledge in Jerusalem when they were there that led them down that path. Make no mistake, right? This knowledge predates Christianity. It predates all the religions, right? We've been here for a very long time, and usually this knowledge is underground. It's from master to disciple. It's passed on. Only at certain times, like this one, like right now, does this knowledge become more commonplace. Does this knowledge go out into the world? Okay, because it's a critical time, you know. And back then, I guess it was a critical time as well. But I think this is the most critical time for various reasons, including the awareness cascade. Right, so I believe that we're coming to that particular juncture in our history. But nonetheless, you know, just imagine if the Cathars had been successful, you know, and we had introduced emancipation and equal rights for men and women, you know, and so forth, and in fact human rights, 1,000 years before the Declaration of Independence, before the French Revolution. Imagine what the world would look like now. Anyway, we're not. It doesn't, and so we're living in the world that we live in. And that also goes into the thinking of the hypothesis that these sages, these masters, Buddhas, I don't care what you call them, come back here, even though they've ascended, if you will, they have, you know, left this place, come back to help us to turn this place into paradise, or into a place worth living in, rather than the hell it is now that we've made that we've made it into. Now, the Knights Templar were wiped out, like I said, and funnily enough, the last ones, or the majority of them, were burned on Friday the 13th, and I can't remember the year, 13, or I think it was 1300 something. Anyway, so that's why Friday the 13th has become such an ominous day for us, carrying forward into today. So Friday the 13th is still an ominous date. That's when the Knights Templar, or the last of the Knights Templar, were wiped out. Some believe they escaped, taking with them the treasure, or the knowledge, in fact, that they had gathered, and passing it on in secret. Now, some believe that they have gone to the New World. The New World, of course, being America, and there's some evidence that it points to the fact that that could be true. We can talk about this at some other time, but that knowledge wasn't lost. So, like I said, the group I'm well, not a part of, but have been introduced to, came out of the East, out of Asia. So that's a very different thing. So there was knowledge there, and there's also knowledge in the New World. Now, there are two, I believe there are two, and this is speculation once again, guys. Yeah, tinfoil hat time. Yeah, I believe that the Knights Templar both became pirates. Okay, so I believe that they were the pirates of the seas when the English tried to, you know, or the Spanish and the French, in fact, were trying to take over the New World. I believe they were the pirates trying to stop that, or, you know, hampering their trade routes and so forth, and you know, thus becoming once again the target for the all-powerful churches and royal houses of Europe. Secondly, I believe that the knowledge is preserved by the Freemasons. I believe that the Freemasons got their secret knowledge, by and large, from the Cathars and groups like the Cathars, from traveling masters and so forth, and that's why you don't know where or what's going on once you join the Freemasons until you reach the very final stage, where they reveal to you what the secrets really are. And in fact, I've told you what they are. Here they are. Boom! I'm laying it out for you. So the Freemasons are a continuation, in my mind, of the Cathar and dualist thought, which is again predating Manicheans, Bogomils by millennia and more. Why do I say that? Well, I've got certain insights. Over the years, I've spoken to very many people, been privileged enough to see a few things as well. But essentially, the Freemasons require you to believe in a higher power, in some kind of higher being. That's one of the requirements to join them, and you have to be a person of good character, right? So and I guess civically minded and so forth. So just generally all around good guy, like the salt of the earth kind of stuff. So that's who needs to be. That's who you need to be if you want to join the Freemasons. Now, there are a lot of Freemasons out there. most of them you'd be surprised, you wouldn't know. The founding fathers, by and large, were Freemasons. Not all of them, but a lot of them. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, a few others. And if you look at what they tried to accomplish in America, all right, creating a new kind of society, where with equal rights, equal opportunity. And again, it's that perversion of that idea that has taken place, because it's no longer that place. America, the United States, I should say, are no longer that place that the founding fathers envisioned it should be. Yeah, and you can track it. You can track the perversion. You can track the twisting of the fabric of the United States. It started out with great ideas, right? Great ideals, in fact. All right, but it soon became twisted. And the bankers, no, this is going to sound really crazy, but the bankers actually were the ones that were leading the charge here and twisting and perverting what the United States could have been. You might want to look up the banking wars of the 19th century, the greenback currency. We spoke about Lincoln and as well as Kennedy trying to introduce state-owned currency or state-issued currency rather than issued by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not a government institution. It is, in fact, a privately owned bank. In fact, several people or several banks own that bank. So that's when it all fell apart. And then, of course, the greatest tragedy was after World War I and World War II, when America, I guess, going from a trade and primary producing country, even a great manufacturing country, to a military industrial complex country, especially after World War II. World War II was really the kicker for America to be moved into that kind of, I guess, power structure. Yeah, now you have to see who's in power. It's a swinging door policy between the corporations and the government functionaries. Halliburton CEO Dick Cheney was in there for a long time. Donald Rumsfeld. The Bushes, massive oil connections into the Middle East as well. It's not even a conspiracy, guys. It's plain as the nose on your face. You can see it. Open your eyes. There it is. This is what it's become. And again, it is the same kind of culture of fear that's being driven, right? We used to scare people with religion. You're going to burn in hell. You better listen to what I'm saying. Otherwise you're going to burn in hell. You don't want to burn in hell now. Better not burn in hell. And then also commercialization of the religion with the promissory, with the notes that you could buy to absolve your sins. You could, in the Middle Ages, you could just buy forgiveness, if you will, which was great, right? I'm going to kill someone tomorrow, so I'm going to buy my forgiveness note. Thank you very much. And then the commercialization has been going throughout this entire time as well. So it's always the profit motive and always this need to accumulate wealth on the part of the church, which is a corporation. You can twist it any which way you want. And then the corporations as they came along in the age of industrialization, and now the power has moved somewhat from the church to these corporations, to media, which is our new fear factor and our new control factor, if you will. It's interesting. Church is still very strong in developing countries, where the education is not so high. Maybe people aren't as clued up to things. The power of the church is waning, though, in educated countries. So we had to get a different control mechanism, which we have. As I said, it is the corporate structure, the banking system, which is keeping you in check. If you've got a mortgage, as well as the media entertainment that is bombarding your brain 24/7 with advertising and movies and violence and fear and terrorist attacks and so forth. Now, so you can see a theme developing here, right? I'm hoping. So this knowledge, it still exists of this where we really are, but it's now again just being passed on from master to disciple. But I predict that we're entering a time where this knowledge will become a lot more widespread, and this radio show may in fact be one of the catalysts. I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly it's possible that people are listening to this and are going, oh, this is interesting. Well, I wonder if it's true, and do their own research into it. So I can assure you that I've told you where I speculated. All the other stuff is real. All the other stuff is verifiable for yourselves. You can do that. And you make up your own mind what you want to do, right? Do you want to keep living in this prison that we call home, or do you want to escape it, or do you want to turn this prison into the paradise it could be? Again, I believe once the awareness cascade happens and we haven't all been killed off, there will be a choice potentially, right? If we ascend and just leave this place behind, because I don't think it'll be everybody that comes along. And make no mistake, not everybody has the same kind of makeup that we do, biologically speaking. Some of them are a lot longer lived, and some might belong to very different species of creatures than us. So there's a mix of people out there, and it's seeping into the unconscious or the subconscious. It's seeping into art. You can always, I know, again, this is tinfoil hat zone, guys, but art usually reflects life, okay? And movies are art these days. And you look at some of the movies coming out, some of the books being written, some of the things in songs as well. But I'll direct your attention to the movie They Live, an 80s movie, I think 1988, by John Carpenter. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to see it. It's and look. You have to overlook the hammy acting. It's actually quite entertaining, right? It's a typical Carpenter movie with no happy ending. But the theme of it
that was in that 2-hour epic documentary.
Yes,
They Live. That was in there. So yeah, yes. Go ahead, Mick.
So
sorry.
You definitely want to see it and make up your own mind. But it's the subject matter is astonishing, right? So I'll leave you to watch it for yourselves. The Matrix movies. The Matrix movie, the first one. Before they realized, wow, we can make money here. And then movies like Existence, The 13th Floor, where we question whether or not this is really real or we're a computer simulation, and so forth, and other movies as well that it's too numerous to mention. TV shows, where we have the theme of massive destruction. That's coming through now, Dave, right? There's massive destruction. In fact, the entire planet will be destroyed. More and more movies deal with that subject matter of total catastrophe, disease, or meteorite, or war, or zombieism, or whatever it might be.
Aliens.
But aliens. We are being bombarded with these. Is it indoctrination? Is it a socialization of these facts? I don't know. But it certainly is all prevalent. It's all prevalent. It's all pervading. It's everywhere you look, and we're becoming more and more materialistically minded. I mean, everything is about the money. I got this, got to get that. You have to buy a new car and get a new TV, a bigger TV. In fact, my grandfather bought. I told you this story. He bought a bike which he used all his life, right? and these days, the big purchases like TVs, $5,000-$6,000, right? Yeah. You expected to buy a new one in 3 or 4 years' time. In fact, it might not break, but you will buy a new one because technology is moving so fast. We are the first generation, like Dave and myself, that has seen a whole raft of different technologies come and go. The vinyl record, right? Before that,
before that, it was the wax scroll. It was the wax scroll, wax cylinder.
Yeah, and then the tape. I don't know if you guys remember tape technology, right? That's gone.
I worked for the company that invented it, and the CD, and they're gone.
CD, then the DVD is gone. No, Blu-ray, but Blu-ray is gone, right? And it's moving into avenues we can't even imagine. I mean, the 3D printing and all there's a whole raft of technologies coming our way, and we have to. It's very hard to keep up with this because it's changing all the time. I mean, come on. Star Trek had a communicator. Now everybody's got a mobile phone. It's not amazing anymore. We can transport matter, not only tiny parts, right, of matter, but we can transport them. We've done it, right? Again, Star Trek technology. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm thinking that these authors, either subconsciously or deliberately, were preparing us for the future. Like Jules Verne, right? It was probably a prime example there. Everything he has ever written about came true. It was fantastic at his time. And now not so much, right?
Arthur C.
Again,
Clarke.
the science fiction. Arthur C. Clarke, same thing, right? Star Trek was all of the things in Star Trek are pretty much coming true as well. So you could argue, number one, it's all part of the Akashic record. We're all part of the great human subconscious, where we're all connected, and these ideas bubble up because it's just their time, right? Or you could argue, no, well, these are guys in the know, they've been given advanced information, and they're just putting it out there, making a buck at the same time by, being science fiction writers or fantastic literature writers or whatever it might be, or even futurologists, whatever you want to call them, and transmitting the information that way, right? So that because it's a pattern. I mean, you look at it. I mean, it's there. I mean, Jonathan Swift wrote about Phobos and Deimos 100 years before they were discovered in Gulliver's Travels. My favorite book, by the way. Gulliver's Travels is fantastic. You should read it. It's astonishing. It has lost none of its political satire. It's not a children's story. It was written for adults. Okay, so you find yourself the unabridged version. So now we've spoken about the Cathars, Bogomils, and so forth. I hope I illuminated your knowledge in these things a little, no pun intended once again, because the Illuminati are a whole different branch of people which are working against us, I think, trying to corrupt the Freemason thinking. So that there are forces at work that we can't see. I know it sounds crazy and paranoid and conspiratorial, but you know what? You're not a conspiracy nut or paranoid when they're really after you, right? But make no mistake, this information is out there for the most part. You can look at it yourself. You can find out for yourself. You can come to your own conclusions. But do not, please, go into this with a closed mind. Get out of your box. Get out of your box and try to look at the world with new eyes. Voltaire, I think, said it best. He said, a journey of discovery does not begin with your feet, but with a new set of eyes. I'm paraphrasing, okay? So give yourself a new set of eyes, meaning look at it from a different point of view. Accept things that you may not be able to accept easily. And again, if you've got different information for me that goes entirely against everything I've just said, I want to know about that too, because I could be wrong about everything, right? That's okay though. That's not time spent poorly, because you've learned things, you've investigated things. It's led you down a certain path, right? If that path happens to be wrong, well, then you have to take a different path to find the truth or the answers, right? I'm not married to this theory, all right? I'm married to my wife, whom I love. I'm just proposing it, right? I mean, this is my hobby. This is Dave's hobby. This is what we do for fun, to keep our minds sharp, as it were. Right, Dave? I mean, I've been I've been talking until my gums are bleeding. Sorry, mate.
That's all right. Before the top of the hour, just as the top of the hour break, Mickey and I decided, look, what are we going to do? Look, just jump in if you can. And Mickey, if you review the footage, you'll see me go, but I was
sorry.
So I just let you roll, man. That was one of the best rolls you've ever had.
Thanks, man.
That's gold. It's gold. You know what? If I can't contribute to it, let's just let it go. And gee, that was awesome. You know what, Mickey? I don't think I could have contributed if I had have been able to, even only because you know this stuff. This is what you do. You know this better than anyone else that I know. And I don't think I could bring anything that you don't know. Or I don't think I could re-explain it the way, in my way, to the listeners, any better than you've perfect. Hat off to you, my good sir.
Thank you, sir. Look, guys. I know I was hogging.
You weren't ranting. It was all good, man. You had this talking stick.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And look, and that's what it's all about. Like I said, I mean, if you've got different ideas and you can back yourself up, great. I mean, like I said, a lot of my thoughts here are speculation. If you've got concrete evidence which would disprove my speculations, bring it. It's good. It's all good, because we need a dialogue, guys. We need a conversation, Dave. You know what I mean? A debate. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't like trolls. I mean, trolls don't add. They just shoot at you. It's like a seagull, They come flying in, crap all over everything. They fly away again. That doesn't help anyone. Dave and I don't have the monopoly on truth. We don't have the monopoly on insight. We don't have the monopoly on anything. All we have the monopoly on is right now the microphone. But we're happy to share it, guys.
Hey, Mickey, it's not only that we don't have the monopoly on those things. We're not telling you that it's. Sometimes you'll hear both Mickey and I state our personal opinion. Sometimes you'll hear us, say that it's more than likely the case. I'll put myself in a position where I'm stating it for sure, and I know Mickey does too. But we're not the ones that have done the research. We're bringing you information, and so when a troll decides to start shooting at us. With maybe a malformed opinion about something. Maybe maybe they're not really a troll. Maybe they're just trying to give us the information. If that was really the case,
yeah,
we're only here to provide information to a majority of people who can't do the background research. So when we look at it, we put it together. We package. It's called a package. We put the package together and we deliver it to you. And it's up to you to, you can take it face value. That's fine. We expect a lot of people to do that. That's why we put the research in. If you're a questioning kind of mind, you might choose to question it further. That's why we provide all our show notes. Go on, have a look. Have a look at the same things we look at. And if you've got anything else, we say this every single show, you've got anything else, bring it. Bring it to us, show us. Let us work through that knowledge as well. Maybe, not everything is just a single side. Maybe there's something that it's multifaceted. Maybe, another plug, maybe it's just not maybe it's, it's hyperdimensional. Maybe there's 20 different sides to it. And I just think, I think that it's very important that the message is where, we have it across everything. Yeah. I'm just going to, someone very special to our show, another host. There's only, I think, 1 minute left. Robert Pepino, another host on Revolution Radio, has something to add. Go ahead, Mick. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
I just found the conversation very intriguing, and it sounds like we're talking about internal self-appreciation, self-value, and understanding of one's nature as you guys, as we all grow, with a deeper concept of our own personal experience, our own personal journey here on this plane of existence. And here's the deal, sorry, let me put that up. Looks like you guys are doing the camera thing here.
Yeah, and guess what? Guess what, Rob? You've got 4 seconds. There's the music.
Well, I guess I can save it for next time. I just found that I tuned in the last 10 minutes and I was listening to you guys. I found it very intriguing and I thought I'd join in. I'm sorry I joined in too late.
That's perfectly all right, but that's what the show's all about.
We'll have you next time. We'll definitely have you next time.
We will have you next time. I would like to thank everyone who is listening today, everyone who brought us up to, I think, 3rd on TSL. Good for you. And stay tuned, and we'll see you next week with an interview with Jason Martell. Thank you so much.